Welcome to Philosophy BIM here. Today I'll be talking about how to model slat wall and ceiling system in Revit. Let's get started. Here I have a sample file already open. Oftentimes I come across with people where they are using the traditional ceiling tool to model the slat ceiling, something that looks like this. This might be a quick, easy way to do it, but oftentimes you have to do a lot of sketches and changes are harder to make whenever the design changes. So for spacing or the size of the slat, you often have to go back to modify your sketch. Not only is time consuming, this could be very tedious when you need to make changes on the fly during the design process. I've also seen other ways of people just modeling as a in-place family. This is also another inefficient way that you think you are actually getting started pretty quick and easy, but oftentimes again making changes requires much more work. So today I'll be talking about using a different system called BIM system. It's actually quite easy to use, and I hope you will like it. Okay, so I have an example here. These are the things that I'm using the BIM system to model it. So let's talk about what BIM system is. BIM system is actually a structural tool under structural tab right here. In order to use the BIM system, you will have to have at least one BIM, which is the structural framing family, to be loaded to your project. So let's look at the BIM family that we have here. What I have is I already preload a dimension number that I'll be using it for the slat. And usually these come with different sizes. So that's enough for me to kind of go over the process. I also have another one called W shape, which is a Y flange for the beam. Okay, so let's go back to the structural tab for the BIM system. When I enable the BIM system, basically I'm gonna have to draw a area, much like drawing a floor or much like drawing a ceiling. Okay, you know what? Let's just go back to the floor plan and kind of start over. Let's go to level 1. I'm going to be starting the BIM system and just drawing a rectangular box. So a couple of things to be aware when it comes to BIM system. They are under the properties. So you have the layout rules such as fixed distance, fixed number, maximum spacing, and clear spacing. For the most part, what I'm going to be using is going to be fixed distance. The second one is the fixed spacing. Once I choose fixed distance, this is kind of where you can tell your beam to be spaces. So in this case, if I want my beam, my slat to be a 12-inch on center, I'll go ahead and put 12-inch or foot there. The next one up is actually called justification. So you have a couple of choices. So you can go from beginning and center and direction line, and I'll come back to talk more about that, how you can use justification to make modifications on your design. The last but not least is the beam type. So like I said, you have to have at least one structural framing members to be loaded to your project before you can use it. So in this case, I have the dimension number already loaded. I'm gonna go ahead and use the 2x4 for the demo. Alright, so now once I have the sketch drawn, I'm gonna go ahead and finish it. So let's take a look in 3D. As you can see right now, you can see the slat or the beam are kind of sinking into the floor. So what you can do is that you can change the elevation parameter here. I'm just gonna go ahead and raise it by 10 feet. There you have it. So for ceiling application, you can simply just use BIM system to kind of lay out your footprint of your beam and elevate it to the correct elevation, and that's how you can create this seating slat pretty easily. And like I said, you can always change the spacing here on the fly. So in this case, if I don't want the 12 inch on center anymore, I can simply change to 6 inch and hit apply. You can see the changes are being made like in real time because these are the instant parameters that you're changing. So it's going to be very efficient for you if you need to change the spacing of your design, or you can actually choose to change the different size of the beam on the fly as well by just going to the drop down and changing it from say 2x4 to 2x6, just like that. Okay, so for vertical application, you're gonna need to be doing something slightly different. So let's go ahead, I'm gonna go ahead and select this and just go ahead and delete that. And so what I have here is, again, this is the vertical slat panel that I have here. It's the same thing, I'm using a BIM system. The way that I have to lay out the BIM system is slightly different. So what I'm gonna go ahead to do, I'm gonna select these, go ahead and delete it and start over. So what you want to do is to define the work plane when it comes to using it for vertical application. So what I would do is I'll go to the set work plane here. They are under the structural tab. I'm gonna have to tell Revit what the work plane is so that my BIM system can associate with that work plane. In this case, I'm going to choose pick a plane and hit OK. I'm going to be choosing the vertical surface of this wall, just like that. Okay, so now I'm going to go back to the BIM system, and if I were to draw a rectangular box again, you'll notice now I am drawing it on the surface of the wall. The better way to handle that, of course, is going to be drawing it in elevation. So I'm going to go to the south elevation, so you can see that I can draw it more precisely. And I just go and use a line up this here. If I need to make this more in line with my design, so I can do it more easily in the elevation. One thing to pay attention is the beam direction right now. As you can see here, I have two additional lines here to this edge of the sketch. So basically, this is going to determine where the beam direction is going to go. So because right now, with this symbol here, that means that the slat is going to go horizontal direction. That just goes up here instead of going it from left to right. If I want to change the beam direction, meaning that if I want my slat to go from left to right, what I have to do is I have to go back by using the beam direction. While I'm in the sketch mode, I'm going to be choosing this edge to define my beam direction. So what happens now is my slat is going to go from left to right. So let's go ahead and finish it. As you can see that now, my slat is going to go from left to right in this case. So let's go ahead and change the spacing to 6 inch here, just like that. You will notice again, the same issue seems to happen on the vertical slat here. Again, all these beams kind of actually sink in or inside the wall. There are a couple of ways you can go about changing this or fixing this conditions. You can simply select this beam here. One of the ways is you can change this cross-section rotation from 0 to 180, just like that. Of course, now the beam is going to rotate it to the opposite direction, 180. Well, however, if you do that, you're going to select each beam and change the rotation parameter from 0 to 180. Well, again, that's one way to do it. Or you can also select the beam here and change this Z justification from top to bottom. Again, it's going to flip it to the other side instead of the inside. Again, same thing, when you are using this parameter, what that means is you're gonna have to select every single one of the slat here and do it. So there is another way that you can actually do it all at once. You just have to do a little bit more work. So I'm gonna switch it back to top. What you need to do is I'm gonna have to go to the floor plan. I want all these tags here. Let's go ahead and get rid of them. Alright, so what you need to do is to create a new reference plane. Again, it's under the structure tab. I'm going to draw a reference plane over in this direction. This is a 2x4, so that means that the dimension here is going to be 3.5 inch. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to have these reference plane that is going to be 3.5 inch from the surface of the wall. I'm going to go ahead and select this here and just reset the dimension to 3.5 inch there. I'm going to delete that. So next thing I'm going to have to do is to give it a name. So when I select the reference plane, I can simply name it here. I'm just going to call it vertical slat. Just name something that you can remember or something that's meaningful to your project. So I'm just going to call it vertical slat. Once I have it here, I'm just going to go to the 3D view and show you. I can select the BIM system like that. This is where I can edit my work plane. So by edit the work plane, I can go through the drop down, which will give me this reference plane option, the vertical slat. This will allow me to change the work plane from what used to be surface of the wall to the reference plane. I'm going to hit OK. And you'll see right now, my slat wall is actually coming out. Well, you can see that right now, it just comes further too much. So let's look at it in floor plan and see how we can fix it. As you can see now, my BIM system now actually associated with the work plane, the reference plane here. Well, except that right now it's further away. In this case, what I can do is I can simply just move back and forth. Again, you can see that when I move my reference plane, all the slat from the BIM system is going to follow. So in this case, I can use the move command and just move it right next to the wall surface. Just like that. There you have it. So you can see now all the slat is actually going to be on the outside of the wall. So one of the benefits when it comes to using BIM system is that, as you can see, that I have a mirror here. I can actually create opening in order to accommodate my design. So the way to do that is I'm going to go back to select the BIM system. I just have to go to edit boundary. In this case, let's go to the south elevation. I want to make sure that I have an opening, so my slat is actually not going to go through my mirror. So what I can do is I'm going to use a circle and simply draw a circle like so, and go ahead and finish it. So now, because of the changes, my beam is going to recognize there is an opening. So my beam is going to stop where my sketch are. So that means that now, again, if I have a mirror or something like that, maybe sometimes the windows and opening and such, I can work around my opening. So this will create a lot of flexibility for you when it comes to using a BIM system for your slat. Okay. All right. Another thing that I also want to talk about is the slope conditions. So I have another example here. So for slope condition, is actually quite simple. The concept is pretty much the same. All you need to do is to let your BIM system know your BIM system gonna follow that work plane. So in this case, let me go ahead and delete this and kind of start over. So of course I have a slope ceiling already modeled. So in this case, you can see that I have a 3 to 12 slope ceiling here. In this example, first thing I'm gonna have to do is to again use the set work plane. And then I'm gonna pick a plane and hit OK to define my work plane to be, in this case, the underside of my ceiling. So now that I have determined a new work plane, I'm gonna go back to the BIM system. In this case, I'm just gonna go use the rectangular box. I'm gonna draw something like this. In this case, so I'm going to go ahead and use the pick line here because I want my slat to be aligned with my ceiling. So I can go to pick the underside of my ceiling here and here. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and delete this reference, this sketch line, like so. I'm just going to go ahead and use the trim command to complete my sketch. Okay, and let's finish it just like that. So we can see that now my slope slash ceiling is going to follow again my ceiling as well, because my ceiling is actually be used as a work plane. Okay, all right. There's one thing that I want to kind of talk about when it comes to modeling precisely. So in this example, what if I want my beam to actually starting from a certain distance, or maybe I want my slat to be in the center of my mirror? So you can have a couple of options you can choose to when it comes to adjust your justification or the location of your slat. As I said earlier before, you can choose the justification from center or beginning or end, but oftentimes it's going to be difficult to get it exactly the way you want it based on the design intent. So there is a better way to do it. All you need to do is to go to choose the justification by using the direction line, like here. The challenge, as you can see right now, is I have a ceiling slat and the vertical slat. They are not aligned, and in this case I want them to both align for my design. So I'm gonna do the adjustment for both wall and ceiling slat. So as you can see here, I have chosen the direction line here. I'm gonna go back to the sketch. What you need to do is to redirect the beam direction for the beam system. While you're in the sketch, if I go to the beam direction, so not only I can pick the edges to define my direction of the beam, I can also use just drawing a line to define it. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and use the draw, and I'm going to draw the line from the center of my mirror like this. So what that means is now I'm telling Revit that my beam is going to go from this line, and they're going to be doing 6 inch apart from the left to the right. Alright, let's go and finish it. And you can see that my beam now, my first one, is going to be adjusted to the center of my mirror. That's how you do it. And now you'll see that my ceiling and my vertical one, they all happen to align. Well, here's why, because I'm going to show you. If I go back to my ceiling slat, I'm already using the direction line here. So let's go to level 1. But if I were to make sure that this is going to be aligned with my center of my mirror, I'm going to delete this here. I'm going to draw a new one by the center of my mirror, which is over here, and then finish it. Okay, all right, let's take a look again. So now you can see that my ceiling slat and my vertical slat, they are exactly aligned in the same location. And that's how you do it. Okay, so one last thing here. Because of the direction line, you can pretty much use that by doing something like this. So you can see that now I have a slat ceiling that is going in the diagonal direction. The way that I do that is by just using the direction line to do just that. So let's take a look. You can see that I have a direction line going 45 degrees here. Probably let's go to the south elevation. So if I were to delete that and just draw a new one, I can use this one here and going a 45 degree. I can redefine my direction of my beam just like that. Let's finish it. And there you have it. So the same thing that I did it to the ceiling slat here as well. So using BIM system actually allows you to be very flexible to do things that you need, and you can make changes here on the fly without doing a lot of tedious work when it comes to modeling the slat system for wall, ceiling, on pretty much every surface that you have here. Okay, I hope you like it. If you do like the video, well, give me a thumbs up and please subscribe my channel here. I hope you come back to see more of my video in the future. Thank you for taking the time to watch my video today. I'll see you next time. Thank you.